this shouldn't have worked. But somehow, an aircraft that can keep flying even after losing engine power is becoming one of aviation's most wanted machines. For years, almost nobody paid attention to gyroplanes. But today, pilots all over the world are falling in love with them. And once you understand what makes them different, you'll see why some people believe they could be the future of personal aviation. When most people think about flying, they picture two choices: an airplane or a helicopter. That's it. But hidden between those two worlds is something most people have never even seen in person: a gyroplane. At first glance, it almost looks like a helicopter. It has a big rotor spinning overhead. It can take off from surprisingly short distances. It offers incredible visibility. And from the ground, many people assume it's just another helicopter. But here's where things get strange. The rotor isn't powered. Yeah, the very thing that keeps the aircraft in the air isn't being driven by the engine while flying. And somehow, that's exactly what makes gyroplanes so interesting. For decades, they were treated like aviation curiosities. Fun little machines for hobby pilots. Nothing more. They weren't considered serious transportation. They weren't known for speed. And they definitely weren't getting much attention from the wider aviation world. Then something changed. Pilots started realizing these aircraft offered something most flying machines couldn't: simplicity, stability, and a flying experience that felt completely different from anything else in the sky. Imagine sitting inside an aircraft with almost unrestricted views in every direction. No massive wings blocking your sight. No complicated helicopter systems demanding constant maintenance. Just you, the sky, and a machine that seems to ignore many of aviation's traditional rules. And that growing realization started attracting attention. But none of that explains why some pilots make an even bigger claim. A claim that sounds almost impossible. They say gyroplanes are among the most forgiving aircraft ever built. And to understand why, we need to look at the one feature that changes everything. Now this is where things start getting really interesting. Most aircraft have one nightmare scenario: a stall. If you've ever heard aviation discussions, you've probably heard that word before. A stall happens when airflow over the wings breaks down and lift suddenly disappears. It's one of the biggest dangers pilots train for. But gyroplanes operate differently. Completely differently. Remember that spinning rotor overhead? Instead of being powered by the engine, it's powered by airflow itself. As the aircraft moves through the air, the rotor keeps turning naturally through a process called autorotation. And that creates a fascinating advantage. Even if the engine stops producing power, the rotor doesn't suddenly stop working. It keeps spinning. It keeps generating lift. For many pilots, that changes everything. Think about that for a second. Imagine flying thousands of feet above the ground when the engine suddenly goes silent. In many aircraft, that would be an extremely stressful moment. But in a gyroplane, the rotor is already doing exactly what it was doing before. The aircraft can continue descending under control. That's one reason gyroplanes have earned such a strong reputation among enthusiasts. Now, obviously, no aircraft is crash-proof. Every flying machine has risks. Every pilot still needs training and skill. But compared to traditional stall-related accidents, gyroplanes offer characteristics that many pilots find incredibly reassuring. And that reputation started spreading. Suddenly, people weren't just talking about safety. They were talking about possibilities. Because if these aircraft were already stable and forgiving, what would happen if engineers made them faster? The answer would completely transform the industry. For a long time, gyroplanes had a reputation problem. People thought they were slow. Really slow. The kind of aircraft you used for relaxed sightseeing flights over farmland on a sunny afternoon. Fun? Sure. Exciting? Maybe. Fast? Not even close. But engineers hate limits. And over the years, manufacturers across Europe and beyond started asking a simple question. What if gyroplanes didn't have to be slow? That's when modern materials entered the picture. Lightweight composites replaced heavier structures. Aerodynamic fuselages became smoother and more efficient. Enclosed cabins started reducing drag. New engine technology unlocked far more power than earlier generations ever had. And suddenly, gyroplanes started changing. Aircraft that once cruised leisurely through the sky were now covering serious distances. Cross-country travel became realistic. Pilots could fly farther, faster, more comfortably. Then, turbocharged Rotax engines arrived, and that's when things really accelerated. Speeds that once seemed impossible for a gyroplane started appearing on performance charts. Manufacturers weren't just building safer aircraft anymore. They were competing to build the fastest, most capable, most advanced gyroplane the world had ever seen. And the first machines leading that race surprised everyone, because they proved this wasn't a niche experiment anymore. It was a revolution.
A Monday warrior, mean strike. Today's Tom Sawyer, mean pride.
And this is where everything started changing. The first gyroplanes to challenge old expectations weren't futuristic luxury machines. They were practical aircraft built by manufacturers who believed gyroplanes could be much more than weekend toys. One of the biggest examples was the Silverlight AR-1. It looked sleek, flew smoothly, and most importantly, proved that gyroplanes could combine stability with real performance. Its high-inertia rotor system helped smooth out turbulence, making it feel forgiving even for less experienced pilots. Then came the Nick Rotor Lightning. And honestly, this thing looked like it belonged in the future. With carbon composite construction and a unique tail design running through the propeller axis, it immediately stood out from everything else in the sky. But the looks weren't the biggest surprise. The performance was. Speeds approaching 190 kilometers per hour suddenly became possible. And manufacturers weren't stopping there. The Trendak Tercel arrived with a different philosophy. Lightweight, efficient, elegant. It showed that speed didn't always require complexity. Pilots loved the combination of short-field capability and surprisingly strong cruise performance. At this point, something became clear. Gyroplanes weren't evolving slowly anymore. They were accelerating, and some engineers were about to push them right to the edge of what people thought was possible. For years, there seemed to be an invisible ceiling hanging over gyroplane performance. Then aircraft like the Gyrocopter AC-20 came along and smashed straight through it. The Austrian-built machine looked unlike traditional gyroplanes. Smooth curves, advanced composite construction, aerodynamic shaping that felt closer to a modern sports aircraft than a rotorcraft. And the results were impossible to ignore. Top speeds near 200 kilometers per hour. For many aviation enthusiasts, that number changed everything. Suddenly, gyroplanes weren't being compared to slow recreational aircraft anymore. They were entering conversations about serious touring and cross-country travel. Then Germany entered the race with the Autogyro MTO Sport, powered by the Rotax 915 IS. Now imagine this, an open-cockpit aircraft, wind rushing around you, yet capable of speeds that earlier generations could only dream about. And while speed was grabbing headlines, another benefit quietly emerged: climb performance. The new engines delivered stronger climbs, better altitude capability, and far greater versatility. Pilots could operate confidently across a wider range of conditions. But here's the twist. Manufacturers soon realized that speed alone wasn't what pilots wanted most. Because once people experienced these aircraft, they started asking for something else: comfort. This next moment changed everything. Up until now, gyroplanes were often associated with open-air flying. Fun? Absolutely. Comfortable during long trips? Not always. That's when enclosed gyroplanes began taking over. The idea was simple. Keep all the advantages people already loved: the visibility, the stability, the short takeoff capability. Then add comfort. The result felt almost unreal. Pilots suddenly found themselves sitting inside sleek cabins protected from weather, wind, and noise. Long journeys became easier, cross-country flying became more appealing, and passengers who might have been hesitant before suddenly wanted a ride. Many owners started describing these aircraft as flying sports cars, and honestly, it's easy to see why. Large panoramic canopies gave breathtaking views. Modern interiors added luxury. Advanced avionics brought technology previously seen in much larger aircraft. The gyroplane was no longer just a niche aircraft. It was becoming a lifestyle machine. And one model would become the symbol of that transformation. If there's one gyroplane that perfectly represents the modern era, it's probably the Autogyro Cavalon. The moment people saw it, they understood something had changed. This wasn't an experimental-looking machine built for enthusiasts only. It looked refined, professional, mature. Inside, pilots and passengers sat side by side in a spacious enclosed cabin. Visibility remained excellent, but comfort increased dramatically. Flights that once felt exposed now felt relaxed, and people loved it. The Cavalon quickly became one of the most recognized enclosed gyroplanes in the world. But its popularity wasn't just about comfort. It was about confidence. Pilots appreciated the stable handling, the efficient performance, the proven engineering. The aircraft seemed to combine nearly everything the gyroplane community had been working toward for decades. Then, newer versions pushed performance even further. With powerful turbocharged Rotax engines, speeds approached the magical 200 km/h mark, while maintaining the characteristics that made gyroplanes attractive in the first place. Most aircraft force compromises. The Cavalon seemed determined to avoid them, but Autogyro wasn't finished. Not even close. While the Cavalon focused on side-by-side comfort, the Kaleidos took a slightly different path. It embraced aerodynamics. Everything about the aircraft looked streamlined. The canopy blended smoothly into the fuselage. The tail design reduced drag. The overall shape felt purpose-built for efficiency. And the performance reflected that philosophy. Powered by advanced Rotax turbocharged engines, the Kaleidos offered cruise speeds that rivaled many traditional light aircraft, while preserving the handling characteristics gyroplane pilots valued. For touring pilots, it became an attractive option. Fast enough for serious travel, efficient enough to operate economically, and stable enough to inspire confidence. By now, gyroplanes had evolved far beyond their original image. But Germany wasn't the only country pushing boundaries. Across Europe, competition was heating up, and some incredible challengers were about to emerge. Italy answered with the Magni M24 Orion. Spain responded with the ELA Eclipse Evo. Poland contributed aircraft like the Xenon series. Each manufacturer approached the challenge differently. The Orion focused heavily on comfort and touring capability. The Eclipse Evo combined speed with luxury features like premium interiors, advanced displays, and even heated seats. The Xenon family emphasized enclosed practicality and long-distance usability. What made this competition so fascinating was that nobody was copying each other. Everyone was chasing the same goal: building the ultimate personal gyroplane. Some prioritized speed, others focused on comfort. Some pushed technology, others refined reliability. And with every new generation, the gap between gyroplanes and traditional aircraft kept shrinking. But one aircraft stood out because it looked like something from tomorrow. The Gyrocopter AC-20 wasn't just another gyroplane. The first time people saw it, many assumed it was some kind of futuristic concept that belonged at an air show rather than in regular production. With its sleek carbon fiber fuselage, smooth aerodynamic lines, and distinctive cockpit, it looked completely different from the open-frame gyroplanes that most people were used to seeing. Even people with no interest in aviation would stop and take a second look. But the real story wasn't about appearances. The design represented something bigger. Decades of experience, countless engineering lessons, and years of improvements had finally started coming together. Manufacturers weren't just trying to build a better gyroplane. They were trying to change how people thought about them. Speed, efficiency, safety, comfort, modern avionics, better aerodynamics, less vibration, greater stability. The AC-20 showed that gyroplanes no longer had to feel like compromises between airplanes and helicopters. They could become their own category, offering strengths that neither could easily match. Of course, no aircraft is completely safe. That's important to remember. There is no such thing as a crash-proof machine. Pilots still need proper training. Weather conditions still matter. Mechanical failures are always possible, and aviation will always involve risk. But there are reasons why gyroplanes continue to attract attention. Unlike conventional fixed-wing aircraft, they are highly resistant to traditional stalls. Their rotor system keeps turning through autorotation, which allows them to maintain lift even if engine power is lost. They also have excellent low-speed handling, giving pilots more control during takeoff and landing. Then there's the visibility. With wide canopies and unobstructed views, flying an aircraft like the AC-20 feels less like sitting inside a machine and more like being surrounded by the sky itself. For many owners, that experience alone is enough to make gyroplanes special. And that's why more people are starting to take them seriously. For years, gyroplanes occupied a strange place in aviation, sitting somewhere between helicopters and airplanes without ever truly belonging to either world. But times are changing. What once looked like an unusual niche aircraft is beginning to look like something much more important. Because the machine that many dismissed as an aviation curiosity may have quietly become one of the most interesting ideas in modern flight. And perhaps, after decades spent in the shadows, the gyroplane's moment has finally arrived. So maybe the real question isn't why everyone wants these gyroplanes. Maybe it's why more people didn't discover them sooner. They aren't magic. They aren't impossible to crash. But they offer a combination of safety, simplicity, efficiency, and pure flying enjoyment that's incredibly hard to ignore. And if this is what personal aviation looks like today, imagine what the next generation will bring.